Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're having a great day. Today's video is going to be on the newest rule changes for Apex Trader funding. If you see my latest two videos on Apex regarding the payout and consistency rules, you'll know a lot of the rules I explained in those videos have changed or been eliminated completely. So please take this video as the most up to date on all payout and consistency rules for Apex Trader funding. We're going to break down all the things Apex got rid of, all the things they kept, and all the things Apex has added. As always, until Apex makes more rule changes, I'll make sure this is the only video you need to watch to understand everything regarding Apex's payout policy and consistency rules. So without further ado, let's get started. First, let's list out all the rules that Apex has gotten rid of, and we'll start out with the payout policy first. There are no more request windows. As you know, Apex only offered 2 request windows per month. It was the 1st through the 5th and the 15th through the 20th of every month, so the trader would only have a limited time available of when they can withdraw their funds until the next request opportunity arrived. Well, Apex has completely gotten rid of this rule, which is great because it will now certainly allow traders to withdraw their money more often. We'll touch on what the withdrawal policy is later. The other rule Apex has gotten rid of is the minimum amount of trading days is no longer 10. We'll discuss later in the video of what the required number is now, but it is less, so that's a plus. Let's move on to the consistency rules that Apex has gotten rid of. The biggest one is no more the amount of times you can dollar cost average. Apex only allowed the trader to dollar cost average into a negative P&L just one time. They have gotten rid of this rule now. You can dollar cost average into a negative P&L as much as you like, but do be mindful of the 30% negative P&L pullback, which is a new rule Apex has added and that we'll touch on later in this video. The other thing Apex got rid of is enforcing trading the news. As a trader, you may trade the news now. The only thing Apex won't allow is holding both the long and a short position at the same time while trading the news, so just be mindful of that. Let's touch on what Apex is keeping the same, and no changes have been made on these fronts. Back to the payout policy, you still get to keep 100% of the first 25k in profits, and that's per account, and you can still have up to 20 funded PA accounts. After the first 25k, the profit sharing ratio goes to 90 to 10. You still need to meet the minimum balance required in order to request a payout, which is listed out on this table for each of the account sizes. There is also still a maximum rule you're allowed to withdraw for each account size, but the difference here is this rule is no longer enforced just for the first 3 months. Apex changed this to the first 5 payouts instead of 3 months, which is even better, but we'll touch on this later in the video. The minimum withdrawal amount is still $500, meaning you cannot withdraw less than that for each payout. Let's move on to what Apex is keeping the same for the consistency rules. They are still enforcing a stop loss, whether it's a physical one in your trading software or a mental one you're keeping track of yourself. Apex is still requiring a stop loss of some kind in order to manage risk, but there is a change as far as how much of a stop loss you can risk compared to the profit you're targeting. Before it was 4 to 1, meaning Apex allowed you to risk 4 times the profit you were targeting, but we'll touch more on that when we get to the changes section of this video. Apex is still enforcing the contract consistency rule. This doesn't mean you have to keep trading the same number of contracts or else you'll fail the account. Apex just doesn't want to see anything extreme where you go from 1 mini to 10 minis in a span of a day. Apex is also still enforcing the 30% rule as far as a single trading day cannot exceed 30% of the total profit balance made since the last approved payout. But there is one big change to this that once again we'll touch on in the changes section, which we're now about to get to. The biggest payout change, as I stated earlier, is that there are no more request periods or 10 minimum trading days. Apex now only requires 8 days of trading, 5 of which needs to be at least $50 profits, which is completely doable. So once you meet the 8 days, you can request for a withdrawal immediately. No more having to wait for the request period window, which I know a lot of people found inconvenient. Once a withdrawal request is submitted after 8 trading days, approval is usually made within 2 business days, and then the funds are usually delivered within 3 to 4 business days thereafter. The other new payout rule that Apex has added is the safety net rule. This rule means the trader can only request a withdrawal above the safety net threshold. So what is the safety net threshold? It's basically your minimum trading balance, which I alluded to in this table. So for the 50k account example, your trailing drawdown stops trailing you at $50,100. That means when this happens, your overall balance went to $52,600. The $52,600 is your safety net. Apex won't allow you to withdraw below that, with the exception of $500 maximum. This is implemented so the trader can build a buffer and cushion and leave them with enough of a drawdown to grow the account. So let me explain this further using the 50k account example. You're obviously not allowed to withdraw any profits until you get to the minimum required balance, which is $52,600. This rule has always been there. Apex encourages you to only withdraw profits above the minimum amount so you can leave yourself with the full drawdown for risk purposes, but they will allow you to withdraw a maximum of $500 into the safety net. Before, Apex allowed you to withdraw the maximum allowed amount of $2,000 when you reach the 50k account minimum required balance, but then that only left you with the $500 drawdown since the drawdown trigger amount was $50,100. So now it's only $500, meaning the balance can go down to $52,100, but no more. So say if you want to withdraw $1,000 profits instead of $500, well then you do have to get the account to $53,100 because Apex won't allow the safety net to go below more than $500. However, this rule only applies for the first 3 payouts, meaning when you get to that 4th payout, there is no more safety net you need to worry about. You can withdraw more than $500 once you get to the minimum required balance. So I hope all of that made sense, but if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. The other rule Apex has made is regarding the maximum that you're allowed to withdraw. So going back to this table, this represents the max amount you can withdraw for each account. This rule was enforced for the first 3 months of payouts and will lift during your 4th month. This is no longer the case. Instead of 3 months, the rule changed to your first 5 payouts. So you now only need to be mindful of this rule just for your first 5 payouts, meaning at your 6th withdrawal, you can withdraw as much profits as you like. There is no limit, but if you're able to move to a live account before your 6th withdrawal, you can withdraw as much as you like there as well because it is a live account. So this rule is beneficial because instead of having to wait 4 months to withdraw as much as you'd like, you theoretically just have to wait a little over 2 months. Because each payout request can be made every 8 days. So the 6th withdrawal request times 8 trading days is 48 trading days, which again comes out to just a little over 2 months, which is better than the 4th month you're required to wait. It speeds up the process. As I stated earlier, the 30% rule where a single trading day cannot exceed 30% of your total profits is still being enforced. However, the difference is this rule didn't used to be so black and white. It is now. There are no exceptions or open to interpretations. A single trading day cannot exceed 30% of total profits. It used to be that Apex would assess it case by case if you went over 30% and may have still approved you if they saw you were consistent enough. That is no longer the case. If you go over 30%, you must keep trading. But again, the good news is you can request a withdrawal after 8 trading minimum days instead of having to wait for a request period. So that's the trade-off. If you did not meet the 30% parameter, you no longer have to wait for the next request window, which could have meant having to wait for an additional 2 weeks. Now you can wait as little as 1 day until you fall below the 30% threshold. Again, to ensure you're within the 30% rule, you simply take your current P&L and multiply it by 0.3. So for example, say your current P&L is $3,000, 3K times 0.3 is $900. So you just have to make sure you don't have a day greater than $900. But if you've already exceeded the 30% rule, you simply take your best trading day and divide it by 0.3. So say your best trading day was $1,200. 1,200 divided by 0.3 equals $4,000. So you would have to build your overall profits to $4,000 to ensure you're within the 30% rule. Apex is also implementing a half contract scaling rule until you meet your trailing threshold balance. So for example, let's use a 50K account size plan. This plan allows you to trade up to 10 mini contracts, but you may only trade half of that, which is 5, until you meet your trailing threshold balance, which is $52,600. After this, you can trade the full 10. However, if you fall back below $52,600, you may still trade the full size, which again is 10 mini contracts. And this rule applies to all the account sizes based on the respective maximum contracts allowed. Let's go back to the stop loss rule from earlier. As I said, Apex is still monitoring whether you respect your stop loss. The difference here is they won't penalize you if you exceed 4 times the risk to reward ratio because they now changed it to 5, meaning if you're targeting 10 ticks, Apex will allow you to risk 50 ticks, but no more. And they do have the ability to monitor this. So if they see you're in a trade and you closed out that trade for $200, but then they see you were losing $3,000 at one point during that trade before you closed it out for that small profit, they are going to be aware of that because it well exceeded the risk by 5 times, and this will result in a rule break, and a warning, probation, or unqualified removal of the profits for that day will be implemented. So please be mindful of that. Lastly, let's talk about the newly added 30% negative P&L rule, not to be confused with the 30% consistency rule, which we talked about earlier. This rule states that your live, unrealized open negative P&L cannot go past 30% of your start of the day profit balance. So say in a 50K account plan, you raise the balance to 60K, that's $10,000 profits. If you decide to trade one morning with that amount of profits, at any point during the day, you cannot allow an open P&L to go below $3,000. If you do, simply close out the position. So although Apex will now allow you to dollar cost average into a negative P&L as much as you want, the trade-off is that you have to close out that position if it exceeds 30% of that starting day's profit balance. Naturally, you're not going to have any profits on the first day, so Apex will base this 30% rule on the trailing threshold amount. So for the 50K example again, the trailing threshold is $2,500. 30% of that is $750, so don't exceed more than $750 in an open unrealized P&L. Same thing, if your balance is still within that trailing threshold amount below $52,600 at any point, just use the 30% of the drawdown as your limit, which again is $750. So this is kind of like a daily loss limit, but not quite a daily loss limit. With the daily loss limit, if that got triggered, you'd be done for the day. With this rule, however, they just don't want you to have more than a 30% open negative P&L of your starting day's profit balance at any given point during the day. So if you come near it or exceed it, close out the position and simply open another position that you think you can do better on. Another key thing to remember for this rule, once you have doubled your safety net amount, you can go up to 50% instead of 30%. So that pretty much covers it for all the rule changes. If you guys are interested in purchasing any one of Apex's plans, please consider using my affiliate code BOB at checkout. It'll give you the best discount available Apex is offering. I'll have the link down below in the description and pinned comment, and that'll take you directly to Apex's website. It'll help support me and this channel, but another way you can support me is by hitting the like button if you found this video useful and helpful. Also consider subscribing to this channel for more content like this going forward. Please leave your questions down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next vid. Peace.